the legacy and values of Franklin and Eleanor Roosevelt to restore America's promise of opportunity for all. Scholars associated with Roosevelt, including Professor Stiglitz, offered a pointed assessment of what had gone wrong in the United States. Their book, Rewriting the Rules of the American Economy, provides a detailed analysis of how rules, institutions, and policies had changed in the United States over the last few decades, and how, by rewriting those rules, one could restore growth and shared prosperity. The goal, as with this book about Europe, was not to return to an earlier era, but to reformulate the rules to address the challenges of a 21st century globalized economy. The American book enjoyed enormous political resonance. It provided essential planks of the still emerging progressive economic agenda. Unusual for a policy-heavy book from a think tank, it was even reviewed in the mainstream press, including the New York Review of Books. But it also drew enough attention abroad that South Korean scholars, for example, published their own version of Rewriting the Rules. The cooperation with Professor Stiglitz on this volume about Europe rests on the long-standing partnership of Phepps with him and the Initiative for Policy Dialogue, which he founded at Columbia University in New York. As the only progressive political foundation at the European level, we are most grateful to the group of high-level scholars from all over Europe who took part in a long process of brainstorming, reflection, and debate with the aim of developing proposals for new rules after more than 10 years of economic, social, and political crisis. We greatly appreciate all the valuable advice, insightful feedback, and continuous support we received from all contributors in this group. In particular, we would like to express our gratitude to the co-authors, who so enthusiastically turned all these ideas into the final product. Ernst Stetter. Preface. It has been about 40 years since Ronald Reagan and Margaret Thatcher ushered in the age of neoliberalism and American-style supply-side economics. While most people focused on tax cuts, especially for top earners, and deregulation, especially for the financial sector, a much more fundamental change was taking place in economic and legal frameworks. Bankruptcy laws, corporate governance, labor regulations, and monetary policy all underwent a transformation. The results are now unambiguous. Growth slowed relative to the years after World War II, and what growth occurred went largely to upper-income individuals. It's time that we recognize these failures on both sides of the Atlantic and chart a new course. This was the view taken by the Roosevelt Institute, a think tank that grew out of the Presidential Library of Franklin Delano Roosevelt that is dedicated to advancing the values of FDR and Eleanor Roosevelt. The goal of the Institute remains to map out a new strategy adapted to the United States in the 21st century. In 2015, I headed a team from the Roosevelt Institute, including Felicia Wong, Neil Abernathy, Adam Hirsch, Susan Holmberg, and Mike Consul, that wrote a short volume describing how the time had come once again to rewrite the rules for the American economy in ways that would create faster growth. But this time, we would ensure that all Americans would share in the benefits of that growth. In that book, we emphasized that creating a more equal society entailed more than crafting progressive tax and expenditure policies. It entailed creating greater equality in market incomes by addressing, for instance, abuses that undermined competition, warped corporate governance, and lessened worker bargaining power. While brief, it was comprehensive. We identified the underlying drivers of recent changes in our economy, technological change and globalization. And we showed how policy could shape what were, to many people, mysterious, impersonal forces. Our book provided a framework for creating a progressive society in which the economy might better serve the interests of ordinary citizens. In that sense, it provided a programmatic platform for progressives everywhere. We were pleased by the favorable reception it received in the United States, Europe, and Asia, and especially by the invitation to work with the Foundation for European Progressive Studies to write a similar book for Europe. The challenge was daunting. 28 countries of the European Union, we worked without knowing how the Brexit process would end, each with its own